Chris Hart, the Executive Chairman of Impact Group Companies, here in the studio with us to discuss the summit and the BRICS institution. Mr. Hart, welcome.
Thanks for coming in.
So you have been attending the BRICS Business Forum today, and you've heard all of the amazing statements that have been made. What are your thoughts on the belief that the BRICS Bank could be a powerful alternative to the World Bank and IMF?
I think the starting off point is that you've got a number of very, very powerful economies behind it. That's China, Russia, Brazil, and India. These are becoming the biggest economies on earth. They're overtaking the G7, as it were, and so there's certainly a lot of economic muscle behind it. And behind that, there's a number of other countries that are also trillion-dollar-plus economies, such as Saudi Arabia, that also want to join the BRICS Bank. So it becomes a very powerful and significant institution with quite a big spread of backers. And I think that is important, as far a broader spread of backers into that bank. And I think the actual foundation of the BRICS Development Bank is that, and I think we'll get into it, it is gold back, but I think they're also considering local currency lending as well in terms of trade finance. And it also helps, I think, to lower the cost and ease, not only lower the cost of doing trade, but also ease the ability to do trade. And that improves the capacity of the global economy as a whole to actually grow. So it's potentially there to become a very important cog in the global financial system. It also takes it away from a specific, you could say, power group in the global economy, and helps to multilateralize the world rather than have, a lot more strict focus on that.
What does it really offer, though? What does the new development bank offer countries that they can't get elsewhere?
I think the thing is that local currency financing, one of the biggest problems that developing markets face is that they borrow in hard currencies, right, but have soft currencies, if I could put it that way. So when you actually do that, you're taking enormous translation risk. So you can borrow, let's say, $100, it's worth $500 in your own currency, and suddenly your own currency weakens against that currency. Your obligation to pay back is a lot more, and the burden on the economy is greater. So it raises the risk of these economies, and very often your economic crises that occur, let's say the emerging market crisis, is in fact the fact that you've got soft currencies that have depreciated against a hard currency, dollar obligations, and that have left them in a very difficult spot. So countries are not in a very good position to arbitrage and manage that translation risk, where it's actually better in the financial sector to actually be managed within the financial services sector. And so if the BRICS Development Bank takes on that role, it will actually help to, as I say, lower the cost and also ease, and it becomes much more sustainable, your cross-border finance and development finance overall.
How feasible is it, though? Because people talk about de-dollarization like, some trendy word, and then some people say that it's not even possible. The dollar's always going to be king.
Well, I think the biggest... What we don't always realize is that the global financial system is like, the foundation is like on a quicksand, and that's because we've taken it away from a reference. You can print any currency out of thin air, right, and inflate it into the system. And we've seen this incrementally over the decades since the gold window was closed in I think it was 1971 by Nixon, and since then there has been no proper anchor. And I think part of the problem is that we lose the living memory of what a proper stable system is, where you can go from one decade to another and prices are absolutely stable. Right, we don't have that, right? And with a currency like that, you can actually re-anchor it. And I think it's a better example of what I call an honest currency, which I think it's there to compete, and in a proper market system, let's see which currencies win. Right, ultimately, we've only had the dollar, or we've used the dollar because it's the only thing we've had. Right, now we've got a proper alternative, or potentially another proper alternative. The euro hasn't quite fulfilled that role, and I think the BRICS Development Bank needs to take cognizance of why the euro hasn't really taken its role, even though it's, the economy behind the euro is bigger. It's more fragmented, and it's still a fiat system. Whereas this is, I think, is still backed by a number of countries, so you can have that policy fragmentation. But the fact that it's anchored, or they're looking to anchor it on gold, is in fact an enormous improvement in the, you could say, the honesty of the system.
Thank you, Chris Hart, Executive Chairman, Impact Group of Companies. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Thanks.